The PlayAction Podcast is fueled by Picasso's Pizza, where every night is pizza night.
Welcome into another episode of PlayAction Podcast. We're going to get to some of the hot topics of training camp in just a second. But Mark, let's start some with what we've been writing lately, our position previews. Now we do this every year leading into training camp, going position by position, both breaking down everyone on the roster, but also highlighting some individual guys. Do you have any interviews that have really stood out to you?
Yeah, a couple that I can talk about. I talked to safety Mike Edwards at the mini camp. He's not a household name by any means. Been in the league 5 years. Only started the last 2 years, 2022 with Tampa, and last year he wasn't a starter. But then Brian Cook for the Chiefs got injured, and Edwards started the last 9 games of the season, including all 4 playoff games and the Super Bowl win over San Francisco, and the playoff win in Buffalo. One interesting thing about his career is he really kind of has earned a PhD, if you will, a doctorate degree in secondary play, because he's played for 2 of really the more respected defensive minds in football. He played his first 4 years under Todd Bowles, who was the defensive coordinator at Tampa. And Todd Bowles is sort of the master of aggressive defense, pressure defense, and somebody better be protecting deep on the back end when he's doing that. And then last year he got to play for the legendary Steve Spagnuolo of the Chiefs, who's got 4 Super Bowl rings to his coaching career. And Spagnuolo is, the master of disguise, uncertainty, late shifting after the snap, keeping the quarterbacks guessing. So Edwards loved playing for those 2 guys and really thinks that has elevated his game, having that experience. So, he's really the man penciled in to take over from Micah Hyde at the free safety spot. Another interesting guy I talked to was Connor McGovern.
Always an interesting guy.
Yeah. And, it's the thing that strikes me is you would think losing Mitch Morse, who had been such a rock of stability at the center position, made the Pro Bowl in 2022, there would be some angst expressed over his loss. But really, the Bills feel great about McGovern shifting over to center, and McGovern has absolutely no qualms or misgivings at all. Because he considers him center his true position.
Yeah.
So he talked a lot about that, and that's something I've got written about that is coming in in the Buffalo News in the coming days.
Yeah, we started the position preview with quarterback,
right.
Which, it's funny when we write these, we have to write kind of like top battles, what to expect, and there's not too many questions at quarterback. They are set there with Josh Allen. But so for the side profile, I wrote about Mitch Trubisky just now that he's back in Buffalo. And what was interesting was picking his mind about how the offense has changed. He wasn't here when Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator or even on the staff. Brady joined as a quarterback coach after Trubisky had his 1 season here. So he was saying he's amazing to work with. It's still kind of early in the process of going through installs he said they're still in the learning process now. So the playbook itself isn't a total overhaul is what it seems like. But he said Coach Brady is just putting his little flair on it, just a couple tweaks here and there. And it's all about having Josh getting on the same page and getting comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. So again, kind of echoing what we've heard before, just how Joe Brady is so Josh Allen focused. Mm-hmm. But it was interesting just kind of hearing the backup quarterback perspective on that.
And that was a while back, too. The interesting thing, offensive football has changed. Every team, it's a constant back and forth. And the Bills' even if Brian Daboll were here, it would be very different than the offense Brian Daboll ran in 2020 when teams were still getting a feel for how to defend Josh Allen.
Yeah, and for transparency, he talked to Mitch back in May. So when he was saying it was early in the process, they had more OTAs, they had mini camp to go through too. So that was fun. Talked to Ryan Vandemark some too. He's been getting more reps since, as we know, Spencer Brown has missed some time with an injury during spring football. But he was saying just kind of, he's going to be that swing tackle for the Bills, and how valuable those reps are.
That's Vandemark was kind of, you could call him a surprise make on the team last year, winning that third tackle spot. So, and now he's kind of sort of locked into that third tackle. I mean, because he can play left tackle. They have Lyle Collins they brought in. He's on the bubble, maybe he makes the team, but he, even as good as he is, he's better at right tackle than left tackle. So Vandemark is, pretty secure, it seems. The Bills training camp opens with their first practice on Wednesday, July 24th. So to get our readers and viewers and listeners ready for that, we're going to bring back our game show format to the podcast, and we're going to run through 5 hot topics facing the Bills entering training camp, with Katherine and I writing down our answers simultaneously and seeing how we compare notes.
Yeah, so we did this a couple weeks ago, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm excited to bring it back. I'll start. Like you said, we've got 5 questions. So First one up, what is your biggest worry entering camp? This is besides the dorm beds and the drive to Rochester.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. I've got Keon.
I've got linebacker.
Okay.
Tell me about Keon.
Okay, well, let's not forget the fact the Bills lost 107 catches with Stephon Diggs. So I have written that the bar is not unrealistically high for Keon Coleman, but the Bills need Keon Coleman to have a productive rookie season, to do at least what Gabe Davis did last year, which is kind of asking a lot, 45, 48 catches, 600, 700 yards. So if Keon struggles, where does this offense go for, I'm not saying he's the number one option, but it's a problem. Yeah. And I am not I don't have a high ceiling for Marquez Valdez-Scantling, because he caught 21 passes in a great Chiefs offense last year.
Yeah.
I think the ceiling is low for MVS. So that's why Keon and the receiver, starting receiver situation is still my number one worry.
Fair. I went with linebacker just because I don't think, this is a gut feeling, not a they have told us, but I don't think Matt Milano will be ready right for the start of the season. And I just think they're still a little thin there. They've been banged up too. They had so many other guys missing mini camp. I think they should be good for training camp, but I don't know. It's a group with less experience together.
I think there's no doubt Milano being back to his Pro Bowl level is a key part of this defensive blueprint.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. You've got next question.
Next question. Let's go with veteran player who we see on the bubble. And just one.
Just one.
Okay. Here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. I've got Deion Jones, linebacker.
I got Lyle Collins.
Okay. Want me to go first? I'll go first.
Sure, go ahead.
So I think Deion Jones is the most accomplished veteran player who might not make the team. He's got 91 career starts. He is a veteran. He's a proven veteran coverage linebacker, but his last year as a full-time starter was 2021 with Atlanta. And I've got Nick Morrow, the other new veteran backup they acquired from Philadelphia. He's got 58 career starts. Last 3 years started for Philly, the Bears, and the Raiders. I've got him making it ahead of Deion Jones.
All right. I put Lyle Collins. We kind of touched on that earlier when we were talking about swing tackle, of just how Ryan Vandemark seems to have that locked up. But, yeah, I'm putting him as my bubble guy.
Well, and he is, accomplished. He's very accomplished, obviously, too. You could make the argument maybe that he's even as accomplished as Deion Jones, longtime starter in the NFL. And, if Spencer Brown goes down, Lyle Collins needs to have a good camp to be that guy that they turn to if Spencer Brown goes down.
Fair.
All right.
All right, I've got the next question. Who's an under-the-radar guy who could surprise? This is always a fun part of training camp, I think. Just kind of, the training camp darling of each team.
Yeah.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
I've got Austin Johnson.
I put Kenny Lovely, defensive back.
I like that one. Why don't you go first? Explain.
He had some fun plays during minicamp and OTAs where, he was a undrafted rookie free agent. He's coming in here, has a lot to prove, but at the same time, people don't really know who he is. So I think it's just kind of when he's had those big plays during minicamp OTAs, you've seen how excited guys get about him. And I thought that was really fun.
And intriguing from a physical skill trait standpoint too. Yeah, Austin Johnson is debatable whether he is an under the radar guy, but I don't think a lot of fans are talking about him.
No, I think that's a good point.
I see him as a really key asset as the backup to Daquan Jones.
Yes.
And I think he is an upgrade. I think he was good for the Chargers last year. He is a one technique over the shoulder of the center defensive tackle. He can stop the run. I think he is a real upgrade over Tim Settle, who I viewed as a disappointment the last 2 years. And Jordan Phillips was banged up with the Bills. So I think Austin Johnson is going to wind up playing a good amount of snaps and being a real plugger, a real asset, plugging the run on the defensive line.
Sweet.
Okay.
I've got 2 more. You've got the next question.
Okay. The next question is not necessarily an under-the-radar guy, but an intriguing guy we want to watch during camp. Okay. And, there's this is a wide net. Could be a lot of different guys. So let's see what we come up with. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, you went with Gable Stevenson?
I went Gable Stevenson.
I went Chase Claypool.
Yeah, good. Good answer.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think about Chase.
I think the wide receiver room is just so interesting how it's going to shake out. And he's a guy who they've brought in who, I don't know if you talked to him or Jay talked to him, but when we wrote about him, he's kind of, Sean McDermott said this is a bit of a restart for him.
Right.
And I think, he had a lot of targets during OTAs, minicamp. Josh was looking his way a lot, which surprised me a bit there. So I'm interested to see once they're going, a little closer to full speed, what that looks like.
Yeah, and how he does against like first and second team corner, the better cornerbacks. But there's no question he had a promising spring.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot of people talking about him. I am admittedly maybe taking the bait here on an intriguing guy, Gable Stevenson, the Olympic champion wrestler. In training camp, a lot of fans and even media sometimes fall in love with these under-radar guys. I could go on and on. Anthony Gray, if people remember him as a running back. Gable Stevenson is completely new to football.
Yeah.
Okay, so the expectation should be very low. They also have another guy, Travis Clayton, the rugby guy, trying to learn offensive line play. I would say it's 10,000 to 1 that Travis Clayton plays a game for the Bills this year. There's no way you go from rugby, never having played offensive tackle, to trying to block Von Miller. Okay. But Gable Stevenson, he is really, even though he's undersized, his quickness and athleticism, I could see him, again, I might be unrealistic, I could see him coming in preseason and giving some backup linemen problems and making some plays in preseason and blowing up stuff in the backfield. The first, I think it was his first actual snap of 11 on 11, he knocked Cedric Van Pran, the center, flat on his back and got in the backfield. We should have very low expectations for Gable Stevenson. He has never played football. I say, while I put Travis Clayton at 10,000 to 1, I'll give Gable Stevenson 100 to 1
Wow.
to see a down for the Bills in the regular season.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. I think it's an interesting, tactic by the Bills for
Right.
sure. All right, we're going to round it out with a question we did last time too, because I think it's an important one. Position battle we're most eager to watch.
Okay.
We'll do just one this time. Mine's changed. I don't know if yours has.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going with the obvious one. 3, 2, 1.
1.
Okay, good. I'm glad you picked wide receivers.
I went wide receiver, and Mark went defensive ends.
I went defensive ends. Who wants to explain first?
You go ahead.
Okay. I picked defensive ends because obviously the Bills' are top 3 defensive ends are set. Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, A.J. Epinesa are the top 3. In the NFL today, you need a number 4 defensive end who can do something for you in the pass rush. And so the Bills have a bunch of guys who have a chance to make an impact. They have Dwayne Smoot, who I view as, I see him as a lock, but I see him as a Shaq Lawson type.
Okay.
When they're playing Baltimore, you better have somebody firm, stout to set the edge of the defensive end. They have Casey Toohill from Washington, who I know you interviewed and had a really interesting interview. They have Javon Solomon, the 5th round draft pick, who had 16 sacks at Troy last year. He is probably the best bender. Around the edge, but he is, really undersized. It would be optimistic for him to have 5 sacks as a rookie, but maybe. And then there's holdover Kingsley Jonathan, who played 9% of the snaps last year. Somebody of those 4, they need some pass rush from.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Smoot. He had averaged 5.5 sacks over a 4-year period, only had 1 last year. But somebody of those 4, or those 4 guys needs to do something for them off the edge in the pass rush.
I put wide receiver, just kind of obvious. But I'm excited to see what it looks like at camp,
Yeah. And there's a real battle for snaps. You mentioned Claypool. I mean, if Claypool has a great training camp, he could take snaps away from MVS.
Yeah.
I mean, I was tempted to pick like a surprise cut MVS, but they gave him his full salary is guaranteed, $2.5 million. I think that says everything they need, and they want a veteran like MVS on the roster. So I think he makes the roster. But, how that breaks down, Claypool, MVS, who gets more snaps on the outside, what percentage snaps does Keon get? And then there are some other guys we can't totally count out.
For sure.
Last year Justin Shorter was an intriguing guy.
Yeah.
He had a very quiet spring. KJ Hamler, the slot receiver. I mean, he is really fast. He's got, he's in the 4.3s, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, have a long feature from Ryan O'Halloran coming out on him soon.
Yeah, and Shavers, the other guy, big guy, who actually had a pretty good spring too. So there's a lot of competition at wide receiver.
There's so much to watch this training camp. We'll be with y'all weekly when we're there. So make sure you're subscribing wherever you get your podcasts, but also reading everything on buffalonews.com, as we'll have all your Bills coverage for you throughout camp.
Treat your team to the most flavorful pizza on game day at Picasso's Pizza. 4 great Western New York locations: Williamsville, West Seneca, Lancaster, and Blaisdell. Picasso's. We are Buffalo's Pizza since 1980. Order online today at picassospizza.net.